that are late. So first of all, I just want to thank everybody for taking the time this afternoon to attend this informational session on the urban ag grants. And we have a nice mix registered of both previous grantees and potential applicants. And as most of you probably know, to date, we've given out 102 two of these grants. And I've just been amazed at the work that the first 102 people have done. And then with COVID, just the resiliency and the adaptability that you've shown that you could do. And you're just setting a higher standard for other districts to catch up with you. So first, I want to thank you guys for everything you did, and hoping to see some really great applications from the potential awardees. I'd rather have a challenge separating out really good ones than to throw out really bad ones. So I want to thank all of you for attending. And now I'm going to turn it over to NACD CEO Jeremy Peters.
Yeah, thank you, Ron, and hello, everybody. Really appreciate the chance to visit with all of our urban agriculture grant participants. And I know I've met some of you in person before. I haven't had the chance to meet all of you, but glad we can come together virtually to talk a little bit about the work that NACD and that your local conservation districts and your local partners are doing in the space of urban agriculture. As Ron mentioned, we've been doing this program now this will be the fifth round of urban grants. And in fact, I'm pleased to share, I just signed paperwork this morning, better late than never, but I got the paperwork completed this morning, which will officially provide all of the basis for our fifth round. We've been working in that direction. We knew that we would have the opportunity, but sometimes details and things like that can slow us down. But we are all set and ready for our fifth round of urban grants. I've had the occasion to visit a number of the urban grant projects over the years, and like Ron said, just really impressed with the breadth, the scope, the diversity of the projects, but also how the sponsoring conservation districts really take those projects and just run with them and make them into such fantastic, remarkable assets for your community and for others to learn from, both within your local communities, but also at the state and the territory and the national level. There are just so many fantastic examples of leadership that conservation districts have brought forward, have brought to the table. And one of the great things about our national association is that we can help share those ideas, and we can help others see that ideas can be transformed into action, and that those projects can really take off and have an impact. So I'm just really glad to be with such a fine group of conservationists this afternoon, and I look forward to the webinar. Ron, I'll turn things back over to you.
Hey, thanks. And then I'll introduce, I don't believe that Tim is on, is he? I didn't see his name pop up anywhere. Okay,
No,
to Michael Crowder, our first vice president and soon to be president. Mike.
Well, thank you, Ron. I don't want to take up a lot of time. I'm just excited to take over here in a couple of weeks, and thank you for the work that your committee has done. We really appreciate it, and urban ag is going to become more and more important to our organization and to farming in general. So thank you for your work, Ron.
No, I thank all the grantees, but they're the ones that are really doing that work out there. And also our staff people. So I'm going to turn it over to Ariel Wivers, the NACD staffer, who those of you that have grants already know and are working with, and those of you who don't, if you get one, you will be to know Ariel. So Ariel, it's all yours.
Thank you, Ron, and thank you again for everyone that was able to join us. Before we jump into question and answers with our grantees and potential applicants, I do want to give Rich Duesterhaus an opportunity to provide a little context and history of this program if he'd like to as well.
Well, like the others, I would say the work that is represented by the past 100 grantees has been outstanding. I've had the opportunity to read every one of their reports, particularly the final reports, and have been to a few of the sites. And it really is a pleasure to know that we have that kind of work going on, helping customers all across the country. And just ironically, where our new president's coming from has been one of the more competitive states. Washington State has been really at the forefront of leading us here and how this particular grant program can roll out. We are delighted that Ariel is able to step in and has done a beautiful job of transitioning in the lead for this particular NACD project, following several years of Deb Bogar doing it. So there hasn't been a step lost in the process, and we're looking forward to mostly this afternoon the questions you all might have or the comments you all might have that would help us guide and continue to improve these kinds of programs that NACD can offer. And maybe just a comment to Jeremy's point about just getting the paperwork today. Our grantor had asked us and advised us that our paperwork would be a bit later this year than normal. And so it was even later than we thought it would be, but it did finally come through, and it probably had Ariel a tiny bit on pins and needles. Here I'm talking about the new program. I got it out there advertised, and I don't have the money in the bank. But today she can rest a little bit because she's got the money in the bank, $900,000 for another round, and we will be able to really see that fifth round of grantees perform like the first ones did. So thanks for the moments, Ariel. Looking forward to hearing comments and questions.
Excellent. Thank you, Rich. And so I do want to briefly introduce the format of this program today. One of the things that we've learned going through this program over the past few years is that the grantees are really able to benefit from speaking with each other and learning from each other in terms of how they were managed to identify further funding sources, potential partners, et cetera. And so this session, hopefully all of you have already looked at the RFP. You're relatively familiar with the program and the frequently asked questions. If you're not, you can feel free to reach out to me after if there's anything specific that you would like to know about the budget or anything regarding that. But we really wanted to use this session more as an opportunity to connect previous grantees with potential applicants and have an opportunity for all of you to dialogue together. So this is going to be a relatively informal session in that regard then, in that I already have some questions ready that I'm going to prompt some of our grantees, previous grantees with, but if anyone from our potential applicant pool has anything that they're particularly curious about, please feel free to throw that in the chat box and we'll read that out and have you read that out actually so that you can participate, and then have some of our previous grantees ask. And so I know that sometimes we can be a little shy speaking up on these calls as well. So for the first question, I'm going to pose a question and call on one of our grantees, and then we can kind of see how the discussion goes. If we still need me to do that moving forward, we can do that. Otherwise, people can jump in with responses as they feel appropriate as well. So one of the really common questions that we see is from potential applicants is, how did grantees identify some of their potential partners that they might be working with? And so I'm going to actually look to Gennifer from Northern Rhode Island Conservation District to respond to this question first, if she's still with us.
Just having a technical difficulty. Hold on one second.
All right. Well, wait while you work that. Oh, there we go. We got you.
Yes. Hi, everyone. My name is Gennifer from the Northern Rhode Island Conservation District. For partners, it wasn't that hard, but it wasn't that easy either. I think the initial part of reaching out to partners was key, and just introducing yourselves and explaining what your interests are and what you're looking to do and what your project is, and seeking their advice. I think that was key for us, is just reaching out to community members and organizations that were already involved within the urban communities. We had little involvement initially before we received this grant. So reaching out to them and asking them what their community's needs were was very helpful. And then we developed and worked with them to develop this program that we had. And ours was an outreach education program that was a workshop series for leaders in urban communities. So it was more of a train the trainer opportunity. We developed a skill share as well that we connected with our partners directly with our participants as well. So that was key, is just talking to our partners, asking them what their community needs were and interests were, and then going from there.
Awesome, thank you, Gennifer. Abigail from Wake Soil and Water Conservation District, do you have any additional comments on how you approached reaching out to partners?
Well, I was not with the district when they received the grant last time, but I do think looking at the partners that they worked with and knowing some of the stuff that they did by reading the reports, I can see that some of the connections were made through partnering with Extension. We do work with them, and in North Carolina, we do have agriculture extension agents in all 100 counties. I know it's not the same in all states. And then I think that they also just, a lot of the partners that they worked with then, we still work with now through something that they partnered on at that time, which was our food network plan for the county. And so a lot of the people that they partnered with then are still working together in that plan, and different representatives. And then also, they also connected with some of the our environmental educator with our district, her partners, to do workshops and to do outreach. So they brought in that education aspect along with the technical work. So I think that was something unique, something cool that they did.
Excellent, thank you. And we'll do one more on this question. Erin James from Jefferson County Soil and Water Conservation District. How did your district approach the partnerships?
Like the last person who spoke, I wasn't with the district when they applied for this last time. Is Lilias on this call? She said she would be.
Yeah, I'm here. I can share.
Hi.
Hi, I'm also from, hey everyone, I'm also from Jefferson County Conservation District. I would echo the other folks, and I would also say that something that we did when we got our program started was to reach out to entities that were already connected to agriculture in some way, whether that was the Extension Office or it was organizations that were working with youth to do agriculture programs, or organizations that were doing some aspect of it. And we talked to them about how we could bring conservation practices to their programs, or like if they would be interested and what that might look like. And then that just kind of built from there, because then those folks connected us to other folks who were also doing things that would make sense for us to partner with. So it was kind of a spiral effect, and just like starting to have those conversations with some people and then being introduced to other folks that were doing it as well. And we really did a lot of listening. I think that was really important too, because there were some people who were already doing work in agriculture, and it wasn't like we were going to be taking over anybody's work. We really wanted to support it, and we wanted to bring conservation to that place. So we did a lot of listening to understand like where it made sense for us to be.
Yeah, absolutely. And we have a question from Betty Jo, actually. Erin and Lilias, would you mind saying what state you were from and maybe a little bit about the project that you did as well?
Sure. So Erin and I are in Louisville, Kentucky. And our project really focused on kind of three aspects of agriculture work in our county. We've spent a good amount of time working and continue to work with any growers in the county that are more growing in smaller spaces. So specifically like backyard gardeners, community gardeners, and urban farmers, to really connect them to their soil and water resources and help them to manage those in a regenerative way. And then we launched an urban high tunnel program in our county. So we provide an additional cost share on top of what NRCS provides through EQIP, so we can bring the cost of high tunnels down for the urban folks. And we also, really speaking in terms of partnerships, we support and launch the Urban Agriculture Coalition here in Jefferson County. And that coalition has been working now for 4 years to provide more education and resources to growers in the county, and to really collaborate so that we all can kind of increase our capacity by supporting each other to just do more work here in Jefferson County.
Excellent, thank you for that. And kind of on a similar note, another question that we frequently get from potential applicants is related to understanding community needs. So how did some of our previous grantees specifically address any sort of needs that they identified within their community? For example, did you do surveys or outreach events or something related to that? So I'm going to start with Nora from Thurston. If you could give us a little bit about your program and then what state you're from as well, and how you might have addressed some of those issues.
Yeah, sure. My name's Nora. I work for the Thurston Conservation District, which is in Washington State. We are where Olympia, the state capital, is at the bottom of the Puget Sound. And our project has definitely adapted because of COVID, but our primary components of it were to do a bunch of workshops. And so we've done a bunch of online workshops. And then really, I guess, kind of talking about partnerships, we primarily have partnered with an organization called Bounty for Families, because our work for this grant was really centered in an urbanizing community, a city called Yelm in our county that has like a 200% growth in the last couple of years. It's a really interesting location where it's right next to one of our tribal reservations. It's right next to a major military base, and it's seeing like very, very rapid population growth. And so that's really, we centered our application in that community really intentionally. And I didn't want to submit my application without the support of Bounty for Families, which is an organization there that runs their farmers market and runs a food access program around the holidays and does a kids food access program through the farmers market. And they were really trying to get community gardens off the ground. And so we've offered a lot of technical support for the launching of a community garden. And that part of the project has actually really grown because of COVID, because we didn't spend any of our materials budget on putting on online or putting on in-person workshops. So we've ended up with a lot more financial resources to offer this organization than we had previously anticipated. And have that part of it, like we are working with the school district, the city is very involved. The city park is what's hosting the community garden. That's where the farmers market is also. The tribe that is right there, the Nisqually Indian tribe, has financially supported this and are working with us to do Lachute seed language translations for native plants and medicinal plants that are in the garden. So really I think a lot of the success is tying our project to place very specifically, both by organization as well as culture and background. So the other organizations that we've brought in have included an organization called Grub that does a lot of youth education and urban ag work in Olympia, but hadn't necessarily been working out in Yelm, and they do a lot of low-income gardener support. So they've been leading the building of the garden and connecting it to the military community that's there too. So actually we just had our first build day on MLK weekend with an organization called The Mission Continues. And so it's really been this awesome partnership where they brought in veterans to do the building that was led by Grub at the city park for a garden that's for Bounty for Families. And I feel like I'm just kind of like holding it and letting them really make a lot of the decisions, because it needs to be successful for that community, and I can't say what that looks like. So I really get to just kind of shepherd it and it's been awesome.
Yeah, I have to commend Nora and her colleague Heidi for their amazing ability to pivot this project due to COVID, and they did a recent webinar on it for us. So I stuck the link in the chat box as well, in case anyone has need to understand online approaches. Nora is an expert, so definitely feel free to reach out to her. And so continuing that dialogue, Kasey, my neighbor down in San Mateo County, do you have any additional comments on how your district approached community needs and what you did through your grant?
Yeah, it was really great to hear everyone else's approaches, because it's just, yeah, giving me more ideas for the future. But I think similarly to some of the other people who've spoken, we didn't have much connection to our urban ag operations in our county. We've really been focusing on the more rural parts of our county. And we're in San Mateo County, which is in the San Francisco Bay Area. And we have this unique landscape of, we have the coastal side and then also the very urban bay side. So the coastal side is rural, it's agricultural, and the bay side is very populated, and that's where most of our urban ag is located. But there isn't a very, like, I would say, coordinated, cohesive network of urban ag operations in the county. I think some of them know each other, but they're also really geographically spread apart. So it was a little difficult. I'm from the county and have participated in urban agriculture work in the past, so I knew of some from previous work. So used kind of previous connections to reach out to people, but it was a lot of like, yeah, just kind of reaching out to different organizations to share the opportunities we had. We used a model that the Alameda County RCD uses in their urban ag work, which is a mini grant program. And so we were able to sort of release an RFP like with an application for this mini grant to invite urban ag operations to apply for conservation technical assistance and also some implementation funding. And it was broad as far as like any potential conservation practices they might be interested in. But it's interesting, as I'm sure many of you have experienced, the idea of like implementing conservation practices in urban ag, I think, is, at least coming from having participated in urban ag in the past, that idea wasn't something I'd ever heard of until coming into the conservation realm. So I think like that took a little bit of sort of just like helping people understand, like, these are practices you're already implementing: cover crop, compost. Some practices were new to them, but a lot of them were practices they were familiar with. But I think that mini grant program was really helpful in like being very specific and like giving people something they could apply to. And I think now that we have this program, or we completed our first NACD grant, we have a much stronger connection with different urban ag operations in our county, and even the surrounding area in San Francisco County too. So we have this sort of established network. People know who we are, whereas before people had never heard of the San Mateo RCD or knew what a resource conservation district was. So yeah, it's been really interesting.
Excellent. Thank you, Kasey. And as a resident of Alameda County, I also want to put in a plug for our annual meeting coming up. We have a couple of our speakers are on this session as well for our Urban Agriculture Conservation Symposium, but we have a great session laid out with the district conservationist from Alameda County, who from NRCS, who discusses some of these approaches for incentivizing some conservation practices in smallholder agriculture. And then our colleagues from Prince George SWCD, I apologize if I missed a few of the words there, Kim and Steve, they gave a great talk on their program as well. So please feel free to check into our schedule if you haven't already for the annual meeting. Registration is only $50, so we hope that all of you will be able to join us for that. So Madison Walter made a comment in the chat box about the mini grant program as well. Madison, do you want to share a little bit about that mini grant program that you have in your district?
Yeah, sure. So I'm Madison Walter. I'm the Urban Ag Coordinator in the Newcastle Conservation District up in Northern Delaware. So we also have a mini grant program that we use. It's through our cost share. We've done it for 3 years now. Last year we had 11 awardees, which each got close to about $2,000 to do various practices. And it is by far, I think, the most impactful way that we've been able to help urban ag projects. A lot of these folks this is not what they do full time. They work, 9 to 5s, and this is kind of, what they do in a hobby or in their spare time. And so just getting sort of that capital to be able to do stuff and implement projects is sort of really their first barrier. And it's also a great way to sort of open that door, as Kasey mentioned, sort of get them, it'd be like, hey, like we also do all of these things. And it's really just a conversation starter, if nothing else. So I think for us, that's definitely one of the biggest parts of our program that we keep running with.
Excellent. Thank you, Madison. At this point, I want to check in with any of our potential applicants. We haven't seen any questions from anyone yet. Does anyone have anything that they would like to pose to the grantees?
Hi, everyone. I think it's a good chance to introduce myself. My name is Jamiah Hargins. I live here in Los Angeles. Hello, Ariel. And hi, a few others I know too. Great to see you. I guess I have a question around the amounts of the grant and also if it can be used for staffing and personnel costs. There's a whole category of expenses that I think our kinds of organizations need to be paid off. For instance, accounting costs, banking fees, insurance, workers' compensation insurance is a separate one, various business expenses. And so I think the biggest for me is the just keeping people staffed until food comes to grow and sell. So I guess my question is, what are the limitations on the spending for this, and what are the typical payout amounts that people have been getting? Thanks.
Yeah, I can address that question. And then if any of the grantees would like to weigh in on their own approaches, I invite all of you to do that as well. So this is a great question, and one that we see frequently, obviously, because budgets are some of the most important things in terms of addressing grants. It's why we're applying for them, obviously. And so the bulk of these grants, the hope and idea is that they will actually be used for staff time to build technical capacity within the conservation district, so that that district can continue to address urban smallholder community oriented projects even past the